Hello and welcome to this presentation. How should landlords handle deposit returns? And we're going to talk about what responsible landlords need to know about assessing and calculating deposit deductions in a simple and transparent way. So perhaps you're listening to this because you have a tenant who's left and you want to assess the deductions. You want to understand how deposit scheme works and how they view certain deposit deductions and how to communicate well and efficiently with your tenant. So we're going to look at 5 things today: the importance of a good inventory and the checkout inspection, the deduction assessment process, the communication with your tenant, and the adjudication if you get there. So I'll guide you through all of these steps. At the end, I'll explain how you can achieve all of these things. So firstly, the importance of a good inventory. A good inventory is important at check-in to have time-stamped photos and a description of the condition of the property. And without photographic inventory, landlords can't have a good conversation with tenants or demonstrate any evidence if disputes arise. So it's also important to conduct regular inspections of the property to assess the condition over time. So number 2, your checkout inspection. So your tenant has now left. Conduct a thorough checkout inspection of your property and take photos, and that captures the evidence of items you may want to make a deduction for later. So take a lot of photos when you're there, and you can maybe make your assessment at home when you're comparing the 2 inventories. So compare the checkout inspection to the original check-in inventory and maybe subsequent inspections that you've done. So number 3, there is a bit of information here, so the assessment process. So this is some statistics. According to the Deposit Protection Service, the most common reasons for landlords to make a claim against their deposits, tenants' deposits. So 63% of deductions are made for cleaning, 53% for damage, 37% for redecoration, and 23% for elements of rent arrears. And there are some principles when it comes to the assessment process. And here are a few of those principles that landlords need to bear in mind. So firstly, the tenant has a duty of care to return the property in the same condition as at the start of the tenancy, as they found it, and as it was listed on the inventory report, but with the allowance for fair wear and tear, and we're going to look at that in a minute. So fair wear and tear is subjective, but there are some common understandings of what that means we'll go into a bit later. The principle of betterment: you can't make a deduction from the tenant's deposit and end up as a landlord in a better situation than you were in previously. So you can't replace an old piece of furniture that perhaps is damaged for a new piece of furniture. That would be betterment. Professional standards of cleaning. Now, you can require a professional standard of cleaning, but you can't legislate and you can't input in your contract that you need a professional cleaner to do it. That is a prohibited fee that you're not allowed to do, but you can require it to be returned to a professionally clean standard if it was given in that way in the first place. Once you have agreed on the deductions with your tenants, it must be returned within 10 days. And the burden of proof is important, is on the landlord, not the tenant. The landlord must demonstrate any detriment, and the tenant doesn't need to do that. So fair wear and tear, that is described as the deterioration of an item or an area due to its age and normal use. So it's quite a broad definition. So things like minor scuff marks and scratches and wear and tear to flooring might be considered wear and tear. However, a child's scribbles on the walls, or ripped furniture, or burn marks, or carpet stains, or scratches or damages to worktops and flooring might not be considered wear and tear. So consider the types of tenants and the length of tenancy. So if your tenant has been there 3 months or 6 months, they leave and the condition is much, much worse, that might be considered not wear and tear. But if your tenant has been there for 10 years and then they leave and their carpets are worn, that probably is considered wear and tear. So consider the age and quality of your items. And adjudicators, for example, allow 5 years for the lifespan of a carpet. So if you're deducting for wear and tear to carpet, adjudicators might assume that you need as a landlord to replace your carpet after 5 years, so they might not allow the deduction in those types of instances. So betterment, a bit more information here. Landlords are not legally entitled to have old items replaced with higher specification or brand new items, in the hope that you can apply the full cost to the tenant. So that's an important thing to note. You must consider the average lifespan of the items you're deducting for, so whether it's furniture, whether it's carpets, etc. So as part of the assessment process, you must provide pictures and receipts of all items and how long the tenant has been there. If the renter has been in situ for 5 years, scuffs on the walls are likely to be expected. It's also likely to be deemed unreasonable for a landlord or letting agent to charge for a whole room to be repainted for a few small scuff marks after the length of the tenancy. So part of the process, get a quote from a contractor that you trust before issuing a deduction to a tenant, and tenants will be much more likely to, less likely rather, to contest a fee if they understand exactly what they're being charged for and it isn't simply an arbitrary number. So do provide those quotes and breakdowns of the numbers you're providing. And communication is really important in this whole process. So maintaining a good relationship with your tenants. If you had a good relationship during your tenancy, this conversation will be easier. If it's been a bad relationship, this is going to be a hard conversation. Do also inspect regularly and tell the tenant what you expect from them. That provides clarity, and provide check-in and check-out reports and a breakdown of all costs. So if you've communicated a deduction that you would like to make from the deposit, you've given the evidence and you still can't agree, there is an adjudication process if you can't agree. Both parties have to agree to use that adjudication service, and if either party decides they don't want to use the free dispute resolution service, the dispute will have to be resolved through the court, which can be costly and time consuming and perhaps in neither party's interests. So landlords must submit evidence to the adjudication service within 14 days, and evidence might include things like the inventory of, with photos, the tenancy agreement, perhaps a rent statement if that's making that part of your claim, and quotes, invoices and communications with your tenants and contractors. That would all form part of a good base of evidence. The independent review likely happens within 28 days, and the adjudicator's decision is produced with a report, and the decision and the reasons given are final, and this deposit is then distributed on that basis. So in summary, we've talked about the importance of having a good inventory, and we looked at the check-out inspection process, the deduction assessment process, and the importance of good communication with your tenants. And then if it doesn't work out, what you might do in terms of adjudication. So now I can explain how you can achieve all of these things. So if you've enjoyed today's presentation and you would like my team's help to do this for you, please book a phone call with a member of my team by clicking on the link that is below this video. We do have spaces to take a few phone call appointments, but the spaces fill up, and when they are gone, they're gone. On the call, we're going to listen to your issues and understand what you would like to achieve, and then we'll give you our best advice. If at the end of the phone call it feels like it's a good fit, then we'll see if we can work with you. Until next time, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this channel, like and comment on the videos, and click on the links below to get access to our other free content. In the meantime, here is to the success of your property business.